Hello and welcome to my video, Unleash the Feminine, at this beautiful event, Feminine Power Immersion. I'm so happy to be part of it. Thank you so much. My name is Julia from Julia's Spiritual Living. I have been building a business for over 4 years now, where it's my vision to guide women into their feminine power and to really have a movement in this world to contribute to peace, ultimately, through bringing back the feminine into our bodies, through ourselves, and into this world. So I'm so happy to be here today to contribute in this way and to dive deep with you. I want to set the focus really with the intention of liberation, liberating parts of you that are still hidden, that you still fear, that still feels scary or foreign to you, and that want to be unleashed, that want to be liberated. So to really grasp it, it's the sense of anger, rage, the sense of the witch, the sense of the slut. So any part of us that feels like, oof, that's too much, or that's not who I am, or, oh, I don't want to feel that, right? It's these parts of meeting shame, meeting the feeling of ugliness, of disgust. And so I want to dive deep with you into the parts that we neglect, that we don't want to look at, that feel too, like I said, foreign or scary. And before we do that, I do want to draw a little bit of an outline of what femininity means to me, so that this video and this contribution from my heart to yours feels really complete, and that you can take as much as possible away from this. That is my wish. And so femininity to me is something that does not have to do anything with something specific in terms of, when you make yourself beautiful, like you I don't know, put on makeup, that means you're living your femininity. And it also does not mean you don't when you do that, right? It doesn't mean, just when you get pretty or when you move sensually, that means you live your femininity. And again, it also doesn't mean you don't. But what I'm trying to say with these examples is femininity and living femininity goes so beyond anything that's conceptualized in our society. Our real feminine power, our real feminine force is something that is untamed. It wants to be liberated because it is raw. It's quite animalistic. It's quite deep. It's quite intense. And it's especially intense when it is suppressed, right? Because as anything that's suppressed with a lot of pressure, at some point it's going to explode. And so, of course, same with our femininity. And so when we go to explore our femininity, and maybe you have already done that, and you're already in your process of, unfolding and exploring more and more and more layers of what that means to you and how you can live your femininity and how you can heal all the parts that feel like you can't, right? You can see how it becomes much more easy, and how there's parts like living in sync with your cycle, like really also being in touch with your menstruation, especially that part of the cycle, and before the menstruation, being in touch with your emotions, right? and not making yourself a victim to your emotions, not identifying as your emotions, but really allowing yourself to flow with them in order to create, in order to be clear or get clear, in order to flow with life, basically. When you are in touch with your femininity, you are also in touch with your body, with your senses, with your sexuality. And the more you do that, you understand how natural it is, right? How original, like the origin of us coming to this earth naked, coming to this earth screaming when we're born, coming to this earth with all the emotions, crying, laughing, back and forth. All babies and kids do that. And then it seems like this becomes unnatural, yet it's just suppressed. It's how we want to express, cyclical, emotional, and waves in circles. And so these are parts that we find ourselves to remember, right? That is innately how we are as feminine beings. And that everything feminine, like trusting, surrendering, intuitively being, going into the depth of shadows to heal, and all these attributes of femininity really are so natural, are so also, to me, they feel like freeing, right? Like remembering these attributes to really live them and not just be like, okay, I need to trust. Like, how do I trust? But like really understanding, for example, that trusting is me knowing that if something feels true, it's meant to be. That if something feels true, I can do it. I can be it, right? So it's beyond making myself believe or trying to be, which again is, the old image of or the societal really image of the woman, right? Like the woman who has to be a certain way and who has more masculine ways of being, really, right? Like pressuring through her day and really being like ever energetic, when really she's not always that ovulating woman who has all that energy, right? She's also the woman who, for example, at her menstruation is in her yin power. That means she's very low in terms of like energies to be outside in the outer world, but instead she's more like inside herself, right? And feels the power of shedding and at the same time receiving, for example, intuitions, right, for the next cycle. And so I did want to give you that kind of like frame of what it means to me to be feminine. Because also the feminine force to me is not something that, 5 steps and then I get there. It's something I remember. And I invite you to remember. Let's do that right away. I'm going to do an exercise in the end with you to really unleash the feminine and go even deeper. But right now, I also really want to give us the possibility to check in with our feminine force and to remember right now in our bodies what it feels like, what it can feel like. So put your hands on your heart or on your womb or on your body elsewhere, however you feel to. I invite you to do that intuitively. And so I asked you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable and safe that way. And if not, then don't, right? I asked you to drop your shoulders and sigh. Take a deep breath in and out your mouth and maybe make a sound. Maybe also yawn and drop deeper into your pelvis, into your womb. I'll ask you to feel into your feminine force. And I invite you to imagine that she can tell you, that she can let you know right now what it means to be a woman with that feminine force. Oh, yes. And I invite you to imagine that she, the feminine force, can make you feel right now what it means to have this force in your body. How does it feel if you know? How does it feel if you walk with this feminine force? How does it feel to sit with your feminine force? Deep breath and feel it. Let her remind you. Yeah. And so you can deepen this with, for example, putting on some music and getting up and moving your body and undulating, like letting that energy move up and dropping even deeper into your pelvis and taking breath. So if you want to do that, go ahead and continue later, whatever it feels like to allow that feminine force. But to me, it's really something that, I wake up with and that I feel right away in the morning. Like for example, wake up with rage in my body. Like I wake up and I feel anger and I don't try to push it away and I don't identify with it. I wake up, I put up on some music, for example, and I explore the energy that's in my body to move it, knowing that all energy is welcome, knowing that all energy wants to move through me, knowing that in the movement of energy, there is creation at the end of this. There's healing on the other side of this. There's power, like power born from love, right? So it doesn't feel like anything anymore that's overwhelming in the sense of making me feel powerless or making me identify as I am the feeling. It can be intense always, right? Of course, also for me, sadness or anger or shame can be super like intense, of course, but they feel like power to me, like it's powerful emotion in my body. And so I see it as power in my body. And so I see the more I meet it with power, these emotions, the result of it is power, right? It's a meeting in power, equal power. And so there's already so much like acceptance and like seeing the possibility in meeting these emotions. Okay, so this is already the transition to diving deeper into the unleashing of the feminine. All right, so I want to go deeper with you into the archetype of Lilith or Kali, right? So like the energies of really like challenging you to drop bull and to drop drama and to stop self-sabotaging and to drop the act of, the superwoman or the people-pleasing girl, or, whatever it is that where you're still living in the illusion of honestly, what we learned, right? So there's no judgment. And there's also, I don't judge myself, right? When these things come up, I don't say, oh, I should be further than this. Like, I know this is an evolution. And so I honor where I'm at, and I'm ready to unfold even deeper. And that's my invitation for you too. So what this is about is really understanding that there's more power for us women. It's like an initiation into a deeper layer of our feminine power when we are ready to meet our rage and our shame and disgust and feelings of ugliness and inadequacy. There's a deeper layer of power and liberation in our womanhood. Because what we're doing in that moment is understanding that nothing can have power over us, and that nothing is against us, and that nothing is wrong, really. Like, no emotion is wrong. And, no way you feel or nothing that comes up is wrong, and is like, you shouldn't be further. You shouldn't be doing things differently than you do them as of now, or until now, because this is how you did it. And so it's perfect, right? So it's about going, like, looking further, and like, how much more power can there be? And so the biggest thing for me is, well, it's two things. It's, first of all, it's what I already said. It's like this way of meeting in movement, because we are here to move. We are, as I said, cyclical beings. We are here to embody in our body, in matter. That's also a very feminine attribute, the spirit, the goddess, the love that we are, right? This is how we bring it together. This is also what the Tantra teachings say, right? We meet, like, we bring it here, we bring it together. It's both. It's not just ascension, it's not just descension, it's both. And for us women, it's especially descension. And so we want to be open to explore all things descension, obviously in a pillar of light and love and integrity and protection, but going deep into these feelings that we fear, because anything we fear in the outside is a reflection of what we fear in the inside. And what do we fear in the inside? And you can ask yourself right now, like, what's the biggest thing that you fear? For example, when you choose, if you were to choose, if I gave you a platter, right, of the emotions, and I said to you, which one would be your least favorite to take from this offering right here? Anger, rage, disgust, shame, disappointment, sadness. Like, what is it for you? Now, I think for me, it's shame, or even the trauma response of freeze, because that still feels like the trickiest one for me to, okay, freeze. Okay, how am I in my body? How am I here, right? It's the people-pleasing girl that I learned to be. And so it's the hardest still to crack, like the hardest still to unleash for me, right? So that could also be something like a trauma response, right? Like a fight, flight, freeze kind of thing, dissociating, fawning. Fawning is also trauma response. Like, that means, for example, someone says to you, you look so sexy, and you did not expect it in the moment. It did not feel appropriate to you. And you right away, like, your body does this, you laugh, you're like, ha, for example, but you're not feeling, it's not funny to you, but your body does this right away. Like, it's this kind of like people pleasing, sorry, reaction that your body does. And so fawning could be something, right? So that could also be on the platter here, right? Not just these emotions, but also trauma responses. And you could pick one and approach it right now. for example, and be like, hello shame or hello fawning. Like I really want to get to know you better, to understand why you come up in these moments. And, I want to meet you there. I want to meet you in equal power. And I want to explore you. I want to find power in you. I want to love you. And I feel scared right now of you, and that's okay. And I'm willing to have it changed, and I'm willing to just accept it, and I'm here for it all. Right. And so even just like saying that feels like, oh yeah, like it's not against me, and I don't have to fight it. It's also something that we learned in this world. And it's also a masculine principle, but if it's not in integrity, we can see it in the world. It's division, it's fighting. And it's not the masculine attribute would be competition, right? And so that could be something in integrity, but in our world, as we can see, oftentimes it's not, and it's it's fighting and it's division. And so we want to say, I'm ready to see it differently. I'm ready to see that any emotion, any trauma response is here for me, right? It's here for me to explore. And so I'm willing to meet it, So how do you meet it, right? You could use, again, embodiment dancing, going through that, right? Through deepening your breath and sound and moving. But you could also talk to it, right? Like make it and not an entity, but like a facet that it is, right? And be like, well, I see you in your power, and I want to meet that. I want to meet that power. And so I honor you, and I want to get to know you better to find power in you, to meet you, at least in that power. And so that's a big invitation. And that's something that I do and understand for me as something, still sometimes as a challenge, of course, but as a beautiful way to unfold deeper into the path of the feminine. Now, unleashing the feminine for me is also led to understand the untamed energy of ourselves, right? And so many of us can't really relate to that well, because we've been, taught to be people pleasing and to, like smile and be nice and everything, and to not say this and to not say that. So we're really just learning again how to be authentic in our expression, how to be a woman in all the facets. And like, how do we do that when society doesn't like accept that, right? Like, how are you in a supermarket versus at home? How are you in like talking to someone, right? Like how do we do that in our all-day lives? And so we're still learning how to do that, all of us. And there's something super beautiful that switches in our energy when we explore our wildness. And to me, the wild woman, may it be Lilith, the power of Lilith, or even Kali, more of like the death and rebirth and the healing of it, or like the breaking free of drama. There's an initiation that happens. Like if you've never met your wild woman, you have no idea. Like there's like, it's just like when I first on a retreat on Tantra, at a Tantra retreat, explored my wild woman, it was in four fours, what do you say? On the floor. And in cat cow, basically, right? Yoga, cat cow. And you're on the floor and you just like, you move your body and you undulate and you breathe, and, if you want, you can make sounds just to call a little bit the animal in you, like this, really like some remembrance of that's you too, right? And the more you do that, the more you move anyway, like in any way. For example, like if you know ecstatic dance, or like if you just try for like half hours, say, dance, and just really be connected with you, and not really draw your attention outward, but really stay inwards and really like move and dance. You can feel how there is a state of trance, a state of trance, a state of, whoa, like almost like hypnosis. And that is our natural state, right? It's our natural state. Only because we live in a society where we have to like constantly watch, like this car, and to not be hit by a car, basically when we walk over a street, I mean, and to, see the flashlights and walk there, and where we step and everything, we're alert all the time. We're alert. We're right there. But when we live a feminine life where we create a life more and more and more, so that we can practice, so that we can dance, so that we can be in ritual, be in ceremony, be in touch with our breath and our sound and our movements and our sensuality and our sexuality in all the ways, we get to experience these states of trance that are our birthright, that are a natural state, like originally as humans. And you may know this already from, ecstatic dance, cacao ceremonies, any kind of rituals or ceremonies, maybe even from sexual like encounters with your partner or whoever, like any kind of ritual, basically, because it still is a ritual when we practice sex in that way. Then it is reminding us of how we can feel in our bodies, especially when we are when we are on all fours. That's what I wanted to say before. All fours on the floor and really move like an animal, basically, like in this position, and make sounds and move and everything. And that's what I'm going to invite you to in a moment. Then we can really feel how the energy moves and shifts, and we feel like there's so much liberation in this, like so many emotions that flow, and it's a real remembrance. And that's something that I'm really inviting you to unleash your feminine and to sound more, be more like loud, own your voice, like more of your voice. And the innate voice always is an that's our heart sound. That's the like that's the heart sound, right? But then also, like if you bring the sound from down your womb, it might be deeper. It might be more like an like more innate sound. So just go with the flow, like no shame here. And if there's any shame, hello shame, right? Hello shame. Thank you for visiting and making sure that I want to do this. I do want to do this. So I'm all good here, but you get to hang out as long as you want, you're welcome. And so to really understand that and move towards, sounding more. So even if on a day where I'm busy because I want to create so much as an entrepreneur, as an online business owner, I do sound a lot and I do breathe a lot and I touch my belly a lot. So even if, if I don't really do a ceremony on a day or a ritual or anything like that, I still am very much here in my body. I'm very grounded always, or most of the time. And, really breathe deeply, sound. Like even when I work on my computer, I like sound and breathe and ask myself, like, is there something I need? When do I need to take a break? When do I want to eat something? Right? Just to be in touch with my needs and to really ground into my belly always. And really, be in touch there. Also with my emotions. So whenever I, do have a lot to do on a day where I schedule a lot of meetings or whatever, which, is a societal thing. It's not a natural thing for us here as humans, actually. But, I'm still choosing it. And so what I still do is really be in touch with my emotions also, and really also let all that flow through my mouth and open my mouth there. And if I do feel like in between, I do need, like I feel too angry or too whatever it may be, I get up and I move it. And to me, I move it quickly, because there's no, I want it gone, or I don't want it in my body. There's just, there's this feeling, let me explore. And then of course this way it moves, right? Because it's there is nothing that I have against it, basically. And yeah, so that's really, to me, what it means, to unleash the feminine is to meet ourselves in these depths and explore, how can we hold ourselves in these moments? How can we support ourselves in these moments? How can we love that we fear more, so we don't have to fear it anymore? How can we understand it better, right? Because with understanding, there's always there always comes compassion with it. Like, if ever I don't understand something, like, why could people be so cruel in this world? Like, why? Like, And then if I get to explore it and be like, because maybe they're traumatized and they're so like far from love inside themselves, that they feel like the only way to have power is do bad things. And it doesn't give them the right to do it. It doesn't make it better, but it helps me to understand how people could even be that cruel. And it helps me to love them in one of the dimensions, to not hold a grudge against people who do bad things, for example, in this world. So understanding for me always brings compassion. So the more we try to understand what's there for us, and not in our head, it can be, but it's not so much here, like, why are you here, and overanalyzing. I don't mean that, right? We do this too much too. But you can go analyze in the depth of it, right? Like, why is this here? Like, you can ask questions like, how do I feel this in the end of it all? Or, where did this start, maybe? Or what does this help me to still have this feeling in my body? Like, is this some sort of alert for something else? Because then we can sometimes see that, for example, disgust or anger are two alerts for us crossing our boundaries, or for us not having boundaries at all. And so anger is something that comes up then. It's like, how can he do that? How can she be like this? Well, because you didn't feel your boundary, and you didn't communicate it, and you didn't hold yourself and the person accountable to it. So that's why you feel anger now. And so it can be a beautiful way to see, that's why this emotion always comes. Same with disgust. Disgust also comes because there's something old in it that is triggered. So disgust is a trigger oftentimes, but it's also an alert for you crossing your boundaries, or you being, like almost crossing your boundaries. So it's like coming up so that you don't. And right, so they're always there for us, right? They're not just coming and be like, I want to play with you. They do, but in co-creation, in terms of, there's something in this for you. Like, there's a beautiful piece of light in this for you, if you're willing to go in the depth of the dark with me, in the dark of like the emotion, the shadow, I'm saying, right? So that's a beautiful way to explore. And I said there's two ways for me in the depth, the unleashing. And as I said, and I just want to be clear here, so it's not too too much me really like expressing all that, how it feels to me and how I do that. And it'll be super structured to invite a little bit the masculine in here. The two big ways for me of unleashing that power. First, sorry, not sorry. Okay. Are, like I said, like the little power going into all fours, like, moving and finding into this natural state and the natural state and the liberation of that force. And the second to me is meeting the emotions, understanding them, like I said, but also, meeting them in equal power and being ready to explore them deeper. There's also such beauty and ritual of being naked, for example, meeting yourself in front of the mirror and just looking at yourself and softening and softening and softening into meeting yourself and meeting all the emotions and sensations that come up when you are with yourself in the mirror, for example. Or when you are sitting in front of a mirror where you can see your yoni. Yoni Sanskrit for holy space. It means your vagina plus vulva. And, looking at your yoni and seeing what comes up when you look at her. Because for me, there's still, I can very, personally share, there's still like shame or tears or sometimes even disgust that comes up, right? And it's not because like here I find my yoni beautiful. Here I understand how holy she is, but in my emotional body and like trauma body, I can still feel the emotions of that when I look at her. So I can see, okay, yeah. And that is healing, like being with the emotions, being present with the sensations and emotions moving through you. Like that's literally healing in that moment that you do that. And so we're not going into stories. We're not going into that means that, it doesn't we're not going into, oh, that means I'm not done healing. Oh, I guess I have done something wrong. Oh, that can't be. Oh, that shouldn't be. That's not what we're doing. We're also not remembering a story and going into a story. It can be that we have a flashback or going into a trauma comes up because the moment is so safe. That can be. But then I invite you to be even more present in being here. I mean, oh, this just came up. I'm just remembering something that happened back then, and that was traumatizing. But in that moment, be okay, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here now. I'm not a little child. I'm not in another life. I'm here. I'm breathing. I'm seeing myself in the mirror, right? So you're really your masculine basically is holding your feminine in that moment. And your masculine is rising to hold the intensity of the feminine. And that's really something big also to unleash your feminine, is to have your masculine rising, because the more the masculine rises in you, the more of the feminine it can hold, and vice versa. So the more you cultivate presence with yourself, non-judgment, knowing your love, knowing your soul, you're holy, you're love, you're worthy, just anybody else. You have the same potential. You're a creatrix like any woman. And so, the masculine knows that. The masculine integrity in yourself knows that. And so it's here to hold space. It's here to hold space without judgment to everything and anything. And so the more we practice non-judgment or forgiving the judgment, right? And reminding ourselves of, okay, I'm here now. This is what I'm feeling. That's not what I am or who I am, but that's what I'm feeling. So I'm being present with it because that's what wants to be here now. That's what wants attention now. So I'm here for it. So the more that can have space and flow, and by flowing, by moving it, we're here and we're healing because we're remembering we're whole, because we're not suppressing anything, right? Or bypassing anything. Because that's what the masculine does when it's not an integrity. It's going to bypass. It's going to say, ooh, I'm enlightened because I know all the chakras and all the things, and I've anointed myself and I did this and that and this, and so I'm enlightened, so I don't have to feel my feelings, and leave me alone with your boundaries, that's on you, and I don't have to do anything, I'm enlightened. That's the a picture of the masculine. That's not an integrity. But the masculine in integrity knows it's holy, but it knows that in the physical body and in the 3D world, that it does have to feel its feelings, and that it does have, that it is an evolution, that we're not enlightened until we're enlightened. And that's definitely not when we're saying we're enlightened. That's probably not what would happen then. It's probably not that we would say I'm better than everybody else, or I'm further, like I've come further. I'm very sure that's not what someone would say who's really enlightened. Just a guess, just a feeling from my personal inside. And so, yeah, these are really powerful ways to meet her, to meet the rawness of you, to meet all the parts of you that really want to be met, for you to rise. That can also be the witch wound, right? The wound of the witch that was burned for her powers. Because what's that power? It's your intuition, it's your knowing, it's your healing powers. And so we still sometimes today fear that power, because we fear our lives could end, or we could lose everything, or people would think we're crazy. And I mean, it is kind of also what society is mirroring back to us, right? Like, I just remember back then when I said I would do what I'm doing today, and for 4 years now, some people were like, that's so weird. Like, why? And who needs this? And, so, I mean, we do get that mirrored in our world, right? And there is like a norm of what's normal and right and not crazy. But we are rearranging that picture and bringing ourselves, and with that, other people, back to what's really natural. And that is crazy to this world. But really, that's who we came here to be, like natural beings, making sounds, breathing deeply, feeling our emotions, being cyclical, being everything, all energy embodied, not just one part, not just a pretty part, everything. Like, power lies in the whole of it, in all of it. And not just picking a part that feels easy. It's in the whole of it where lies the power. And especially where we feel like caged or limited or judged, lies the most power, obviously, in our next step to unleash ourselves, right? So I'm inviting you to, again, what are you choosing on the platter that I offered before? Like, what's your next thing? So for me, I do feel it's meeting like disgust and shame. For example, in the practice of looking at my yoni in the mirror, that's something that I'm always invited to do. And yeah, and also boundaries to me. That's where I'm currently at, like these two things. And really understanding boundaries. Like, what is that? How do I feel that? Boundaries is not something that I'm enforcing out of fear. It's not something that I'm enforcing to make you do something. It's something that I clearly state because I have a need, I have, values, and I have a clear vision of how I want to live. And so I have, time boundaries. I have, boundaries that are emotional, that are spiritual, that have to do with all the different ways of how we live. And so it's honoring that and sharing that with people, and really not honoring overstepping. So that's also part of boundaries. Like, you tell them, and then someone oversteps them, and then you would say, you're overstepping my boundaries. To me, the consequence would be that we cannot talk right now anymore, because I asked you to not do that, and you're not respecting my boundary right now, and that's not okay for me. So we would be super clear in that. And also in this society, this is made like bad, like look bad. It's like, oh, you're being picky, you're being, mean, you're being cold, you're not being nice, you're not being understanding. Like, come on, And so in this society, we either we have like the two sides of it, right? It's either this, come on, people pleasing thing, and this like, don't be mean, like be nice. Or we have like the people who enforce power, right? And then have boundaries that are like decide tomorrow if you buy with me, for example, as a coach. And if you don't, then you're out, right? And so you could do that if it feels from love, right? But to me, for example, it feels like, oh, okay, I just have one day. Okay. Like that brings me into a state of like alert. And so I can't really make the decision from a regulated nervous system. So I would firstly look, have to look how I get myself to a regulated nervous system to then even feel if I want to do it. So the answer for me would probably be no, because just that boundary doesn't even, match up with how I would do it, right? So in clear boundaries, we can see if we match with each other as people, for example, or for a relationship. And this is something so important that we really have to learn as women, because it's something that most of us fear. And this is something that I'm really practicing right now, and I'm doing it, but I can really feel my body, like trauma response or like fear coming up. So I'm doing it, but I still have a little bit of fear because it's so new still that I'm allowed to do that. Yeah, just feeling into my childhood where that was no option. It feels scary still to my body, to my trauma body, right? So I'm just really learning how to do it. And again, like the body, like I didn't say it like that, but still I want to remind you, like the body needs time. So give your body time to remember. Yeah. All right. So at the end of this, I'm inviting you to practice to unleash your feminine. So my favorite invitation would be for you to get on a yoga mat, to get on the floor, to get on all fours. And I'm going to give you a playlist that you can choose a song from that really catches you. And when you're saying like, oh, I'm going to use this one, I'm going to give you like a wild woman playlist. And I'm going to just tell you what to do. And then you can I'm going to do it with you. All right. So get ready, get your playlist, choose your song, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and get on your mat on all fours. And if you don't feel like going on all fours, why ever, right? I invite you to stand on your mat or come into any kind of really pose that feels right now. And to meet yourself where you're at. But I do invite you to anything like primal or where you feel your power. So like to have your knees bent, like have a wide stand and like use your arms when you move now, like if you want to be standing. I don't really invite you to be sitting, only if you like feel that you can still like move your belly and your back super well this way, then perfect. All right, so pause this if you need to get ready, and else here we go. All right, welcome to this wild woman initiation, to the unleashing of whatever part it is right now that wants to be unleashed. So let's take a moment on your mat. And even if you want to start on all fours, what I invite you to, I still ask you right now to come back to your knees, to your legs, and just sit for a moment. So wherever you are, standing or sitting, I invite you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath, even deeper into your womb space, into your pelvis. Maybe yawn, maybe make a sound, and just really open your mouth and your jaw, and really loosen your jaw. And drop deeper into the space and into your body. Invite you to feel into what part of you are wanting to meet right now. Not just like wanting, but what are you ready for? Like, ask the part to show up that maybe was in the shadow and that you are ready for it to meet right now. While you're sitting there right now, you may be able to feel that that is rage, that that is shame, that it is disgust, that is fear, that that is wildness, that that is fawning, that that is people pleasing, that that is suppression in any form. I invite you to feel into these words and see how this resonates in your body while always breathing deeper, sounding more, allowing yourself more in this moment, meeting you deeper. And then I invite you to start moving and or let yourself be moved by this part that you're resonating with, by this piece that you're resonating with. So maybe you're coming in all fours now. Maybe you're coming into wide stand and beginning to get your arms up and move. And if you're on all fours, undulating, moving while sounding, while deepening your breath, meeting that part of you in resonance, whatever piece that resonated just now, what I spoke. Now I invite you to turn up the music maybe, or just deepen with breath and sound and the intention of meeting in the dark, meeting in the shadow, meeting it with love, meeting it with curiosity, curious to meet, to play, to unfold in this together. So I invite you to go deeper, moving, being moved by that, moved by this meeting. I'm going to be still for a moment and just go into my own practice to hold space for you, and you be with you and with a part that you're meeting right now. Move deeper into this meeting. Maybe there's touch. Maybe you're like touching your body, like grasping onto your arms. Maybe you're like going onto the floor like this, or widening your movement. Like go deeper. Let yourself take you there into this deeper meeting of the shadow. Meet it with compassion, with power, with curiosity, with presence and movement, breath, sound, movement, touch, deepen. And of course, you can stay here as long as you want. If you just want to deepen right now, then, maybe pause this video with me to stay in your practice and to explore more songs between all fours and sitting up and standing up, and maybe exploring the floor, breathing, sounding, maybe freeing also sound. Maybe there comes like an ah, or any kind of sound that's like, oh, like anything that's freeing, like free your voice, free that sound, like liberate that feminine energy inside you, right? So give yourself space. And if you want to deepen right now, go ahead and do that and pause the video and go as deep and as long as it takes you. Like go there, like honor that, honor the momentum. Go ahead. And if you are feeling like this is enough for the moment, or anytime you're pressing play again, I ask you to slow down a little bit, not to slow yourself down again. If you want to keep going, go ahead. If you feel like this is enough for the moment, you feel like integrating that experience on a cellular level and really anchoring that in, I invite you to become still. Come seated or still standing or laying down. Take a few breaths into that stillness, into what just happened without judgment. And knowing that that is yet another initiation that opens you to deepen into this. But this is not going to go anywhere. The power in this is not going to go anywhere. It's healing and it's here to stay for you, in you. So I ask you to maybe, hug yourself, hold yourself. Maybe give yourself some gentle touch to feel that love, feel the masculine hugging you, holding you, the mother for your inner child. Mm. And any yawning that comes along is always welcome, because yawning is always you surrendering into a regulated nervous system and relaxing your body. So that's always a good sign. It's always welcome. It does not mean not immediately that you're tired or whatever, right? Or that you're not being present. Allow all that, explore it. And I ask you to close this exercise with a sense of gratitude, maybe a sense of pride for your bravery, for your openness to explore all parts of you. I ask you to come back to the space that you're in, to realize where you're at and what is next for you in this day or night. And so I deeply want to thank you for journeying with me. If you're German speaking, I have a whole big world of podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, and courses. If you're only English speaking, I have an Instagram channel, and I will bring YouTube videos to my YouTube channel, and I will bring Awaken, the Goddess Within, my signature program that I have in German language. I will bring it to the English market with all the archetypes that we explore in there, with all the feminine energy that we unleash there. So if this is something you want to do with me, then you can expect that to come. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up in this way. I deeply honor you and appreciate you for us co-creating a world where womanhood is celebrated, where womanhood is something that we feel is holy and powerful, and where we get to bring this into this world. So thank you so much. I hope you took away so much from this, especially a remembrance and feelings in your body that remind you of your power. So thank you. And I hope to be able to connect with you and stay in connection with you if you choose to. Thank you, and all the best to you. Thank you so much also for having me as part of this beautiful immersion. I deeply appreciate that. Thank you, Tanya, and everything and everybody involved here in co-creating this. Thank you. With all my love, Julia.